So guys, I'd like to present the professional entrepreneur. Oh, he's the CEO of Ripple Connects. I love that name. You drop in like a stone and you ripple and you touch other lives. But most of all, he is a personal friend of mine, confidant, advisor, everything. Mr. Joe McKenzie.
Thank you, Kevin, for the opportunity to be here. I believe this is the 5th time that I've been able to speak at one of Kevin's events. And our short story, our short history is that he walked into my seminar in Orlando at the Libertarian National Convention, and he says, I want to bring you to Atlanta. And I wasn't sure who he was at that time, but here we are almost 4 years later, you know, speaking in Milwaukee, speaking in Atlanta, speaking in Orlando, and here. So I'm very fortunate to have a meaningful connection and a good friend like Kevin Fortune, and that is one of the reasons I want to flesh this out today. A lot of the things I'll talk about today I started doing long before social media even was 2 words. And that's what I want to share with you, because sometimes there's blurred lines. People have 1,500 Facebook friends, but really don't have anybody there. They don't know people. They don't have that genuine connection to them. So I thought it was odd 30 years ago when I started building out my meaningful connections, my network, before it was even a word. I'm also someone that doesn't prefer to go to network events because I think there's a lot of superficiality to it. And so yes, I'm contrarian. I would rather go get to know somebody, take for a cup of coffee, and have a granular approach to how I build out a meaningful and diverse network connection. And what I mean by diverse is, diverse meaning areas of our lives. You know, I mentioned libertarianism, but that's just one node that I have in my network, and that's something I want to flesh out here today. But fortunately, a gentleman, a Romanian physicist who studies big data, Alberto Barabasi, wrote this book, The Formula, The Universal Laws of Success. Just came out this past year. And what he said was, the first law, when performance drives success, but when performance can't be measured, networks drive success. Show of hands here. I talked to Gary. You're working with a realtor recently. Who else have had to work with a realtor? Who's had to pick out a dentist in the last year? How do you measure their performance from one dentist to another?
Recommendations, word of mouth.
There you go. But it's hard to.
Yeah.
It's right.
It is tricky.
Yes. So that's what Barabasi's talking about here. Performance drives success, but when performance can't be measured, so how do we measure that dentist is better than that dentist without that referral? That happens with realtors, correct? You had a referral source for them, but without a referral source, it's hard. What makes that realtor and their performance better than that realtor? And so if you're a realtor, or if you're in teaching, dentist, entrepreneur, most of the professions we're in, filmmaker, artist, most of the professions we're in, it's hard to measure our performance. And our success is going to come through our networks, okay? So networks drive our success when performance can't be measured. It's easy to know that Usain Bolt is 1/10 of a second faster than the next guy, right? In sports. But it's much tougher to compare a dentist or a realtor or a career coach. How do they measure my performance? And that's why networks are so important to our success today. Initially, I had this vision years ago, and Barabasi helped me, but also looking at the different nodes that we have. Often people will look at our networks as 500 LinkedIn connections, 500 faces, right? 750 Facebook friends, faces. We don't see them as different nodes in our lives. We see them as a group of people. That's our network. Well, I've long had this vision similar to this, where it was nodes with links. Okay? So the Libertarian Party of Minnesota is where I started. I'll just take one snapshot of one node, one area of my life in politics. Where I started with the Libertarian Party of Minnesota, where I got a chance to volunteer, work the candidates and so forth, and got to meet one of our candidates within the LPMN, one of our true volunteers at the state fair and then some. But that Libertarian Party of Minnesota brought me to the Libertarian National Convention. Another part of, now I'm with the Libertarian National space, for lack of a better word. Without me starting with the LPMN and getting to the LNC, I would have never met Kevin Fortune. He would have never had the opportunity to walk into my seminar, my active listening seminar, and say, I got to bring you to Atlanta. Me and Kevin work together on a couple different things. I get a chance to be here today. I get a chance to be in Milwaukee a year ago. Those are examples of how one node starts linking out, okay? So the Network for Wealth and Liberty America was a link off the Libertarian National Committee, but started with the LPMN. That's just one area of my life. I serve on nonprofit boards. I'm involved with veterans groups. I'm involved in a local radio station that basically is instrumental in helping the communities of color in Minneapolis. Those are completely different network nodes than the Libertarian network nodes. That's just one. So when we start not just looking at how many bases, and we look at different nodes and the links between them, then we start building out the diversity of our network. And like I said, diversity can be geographical, it can be, the politics is much different than working in the nonprofit space that I volunteered. Agreed? So that's the different nodes, okay? I don't want to get too technical with that, but just keep that in mind. Keep that as a visual as I talk about it today. Remember, when performance can't be measured, networks drive our success, okay? I want you to remember that. Networks drive our success. Now, you're probably wondering why. I'm going to give you 4 compelling whys to build out a meaningful and diverse network of individuals. First and foremost, show of hands, who has a mentor or two in this room today? Ivan? Kevin? Yep. What do those mentors mean to you?
Wisdom.
Okay, excellent.
Moving faster.
Moving towards your goals. Kevin? Your mentor.
You know me now. Support.
Okay. When things get tough, you have that person to keep you on the rails, correct? Often mentors can be found in the diverse and meaningful network connections we have. Okay? My dear mentor who passed away in 2011 was that first person that told me what I could be doing, and I never saw it. Okay? You're going to turn Minneapolis upside down in regards to career coaching because of your background. I had no idea what he's talking about at the moment. But I do have mentors now. I do have a couple different mentors. One of my broadcast mentors that I've been working with 5 years was one of the first African American broadcasters in TV news, an ABC affiliate in Omaha. What better broadcast mentor to have to believe in me when I wasn't an eloquent speaker? I was passionate, but he goes, Joe, you have the finesse and you have the drive to be good at what you're going to do. And we celebrated 5 years on Twin Cities Radio. Without building out that network nodes, I may have never found him. And I've identified 1 or 2 more since my first mentor passed away. That's a very compelling reason of why. Why I'm standing here today is to share that that mentor may come to you. Don't force it, but it may come to you. And these 3 people right here identified 3 compelling reasons why to have a mentor. All right? money, accelerated your goals towards where you're going, correct? And wisdom. All critical things that a mentor can do. I know you can't read that, but differences in perspective and information processing style. When we surround ourselves with diverse people, different backgrounds, engineers, scientists, teachers, special ed teachers, artists, financiers, you two gentlemen, you working in filmmaking, you working in investments.
Writing.
Exactly.
Stuff, yeah.
That's diversity of information processing styles and diversity in perspectives. That's simply a term called cognitive diversity. It's a very critical piece of a diverse and meaningful network. Agreed? When we surround ourselves with lack of diversity in that processing style, we don't get that pushback, right? There's a great book out there called Wisdom of Crowds by James Sarawaki, and he talks about cognitive diversity. There was more cognitive diversity, Wisdom of Crowds, James Sarawaki, he writes for the New York Post, I believe. Washington Post, sorry. There was more diversity of thinkers in the NASA, the space program, in the 50s and 60s, because they drew from people that were in the military during World War II. They were drawing from the universities with physicists. They were bringing chemical. This diversity. The only thing that was alike about them was they looked a lot alike with short sleeve white shirts and black ties. But today, NASA found that they were drawing too many people from too many select universities, not drawing from these diversity of areas. And NASA's had some problems over the years. A lot of their space shuttle programs, they ran into a lot of issues that we saw firsthand on our TV screens. Well, a lot of it has to do with people pushing back on your ideas. Having that different information processing style and different perspective. That is critical, and that can be found in a meaningful and diverse network. That's the second compelling reason. Collaboration. Collaboration with people in a diverse and meaningful network can lift everybody's hot air balloons and rise. Agreed? Collaboration. Now this is going beyond the superficiality of just a Facebook friend or a LinkedIn connection. Now we're collaborating. There's 3 people in this room that I collaborated with for this talk. It's Jared, Christopher, and Kevin. I got their insights. I know Jared says, don't go too deep in this slide. Go to the human side. Kevin, I have no idea what a network node is. Don't throw that around too much. And I agree. It's kind of, doesn't have that high impact, but now pivoting to this. Christopher talking about how he's building out a new network in a new geographical area after being in Minneapolis area for a number of years. Help me to put this together. So collaborative style is the difference between a lot of the social media here today. Okay? And when all the balloons rise, that's when you have something. Because I want each and every one that I work with to rise along with myself. And that's a big difference maker here today. Ivan, you talked about that in your talk today, how you helping people and getting them to their goals. You probably see 4 or 5 hot air balloons rising at the same time along with yours, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's a visual that you have.
Yeah.
You're lifting, you're teaching people how to have a liftoff, correct? That's so critical to have a meaningful network of people, okay? The superficiality just doesn't cut it, okay? So if you're looking for collaboration above just a social media friend or going at it by yourself, that collaboration may get you to achieve your goals, achieve that new job, achieve that wealth, achieve that new opportunity. branch out and become an entrepreneur. That collaborative approach with meaningful people in your network, with that diverse angle, will allow you to do that. Without it, it's superficial, in my opinion. And finally, 70%. That is something that, as a career coach, do you know that some statistics say up to 70% of jobs filled today were never posted online or in a want ad? Up to 70% of jobs filled came out of the hidden job market. You also you alluded to that in your talk about who you were, being that referral source. Think about it. Those companies are looking for people that they can bring in and trust and get going right away. And putting out a post and getting 500 responses is cumbersome, time consuming, and they still don't know who they have. But if you recommend it and say, I know someone exactly who I need for this position, and this person can handle this, I want you to have a conversation with them. They may never post that job. They may write the job description well after they've talked to you. Think about that. Job descriptions are some of the worst constructed documents on this planet. If anybody reads Lou Adler, The Essential Guide for Hiring and Getting Hired, he says job descriptions should simply have performance objectives that the new hire is expected to achieve. What does it matter that I have 20 years somewhere? What if I occupied a chair for 20 years? What about a military veteran who hasn't worked in the nonprofit sector, but the nonprofit sector wants someone with 20 years experience? Think about it. Up to 70% of jobs filled today come out of the hidden job market. So it'd be wise, if you were making a career change, to let that diversity of your network know what you want, right? You have to let them know, otherwise they can't advocate for you. Your network's filled with advocates, right? And that is a critical reason to build out a diverse and meaningful network. We've all had people that we've handed their resume and said, well, if I think of something, I'll call you. That's usually going to the circular file or buried somewhere. But an advocate is different. A meaningful connection is different. It's more than a social media connection. Someone becomes your eyes and ears in that hidden job market. Someone who refers you in long before they write a job description. They become your adder, or better yet, a multiplier. I know that many of us have had subtractors in our lives, dividers in our lives. Dr. Verna Price writes a book, 4 Kinds of People. What we want is to find those adders and multipliers in our lives. The multipliers, there might be 2 or 3 in our lives, but the adders add to our lives. And that is something that you're going to find if you take the time to build out. Foundations, houses, buildings, networks take time. They can't be superficial, they can't be built overnight. As I said, I was building a lot of this out long before social media came on board. And I'm glad I did. Long before there was a networking event every other night. Because really what I was doing was curating people that I thought I could help and they could help me. There was more meaning to it, okay? And so these 3 gentlemen right here, perfect examples of that. That I felt that we could collaborate, reciprocate in regards to what we did, agreed. Kevin, I know that my life is more enriched because of these 3 individuals here today. And I didn't meet them at networking events. I didn't just meet them via Facebook. I met them in person and got to know person. I remember the first time Christopher stood up in front of a crowd as running for mayor of Minneapolis, and how he connected with the audience. And I thought that was so unique that I don't remember the exact words when I came up. I just said, you have the audience. You connected with your heart with them.
You kept looking at me, so you had
But
got
you,
my
yeah,
attention.
that's right. I had not met him before he was addressing the crowd, and I just said, this is impressive, because prior to him speaking, there was a lifetime,
A couple of different.
a couple of
individuals.
different types of politicians who were there that were not very authentic, were very superficial. They just wanted your vote. If you vote for it, then I'll get something done for you. You took the complete different way.
And I wasn't
So-
sure how that was going to end up, but.
Yes. So when we start thinking about the meaningful connections, think about the enrichment of these people. I would rather sit down with a handful of people than have 10,000 LinkedIn connections, because I know the superficiality. I'm looking for someone I can help. I'm looking to be someone's advocate, and vice versa. And if you think of these 4 compelling reasons why to have it, the hidden job market should stand out to you. Finding a potential mentor that helps drive your goals faster, gets you to where you want to achieve that financial goal, and shares wisdom. Why wouldn't you build out a meaningful and diverse network? Agreed? Why wouldn't you? As well as the collaborative style and the overlap of that cognitive diversity. The ability for someone to say, hey, Joe, have you ever thought about it this way? Wow, I've never heard that take on that, but that's interesting. That is a real asset to a diverse and meaningful network. Now, you're asking how to. Now, here's the visual I have. I apologize for not having that screen up, but it's really, you think about it, the people and the nodes out there, there's 4 ways that I want you to focus on. That 30 years have helped me. When I thought I was the odd duck because I was trying to be authentic, it works. If I would have been superficial with Kevin Fortune 4 years ago, or just blew him off, didn't return his call, didn't trust him, I wouldn't be standing here today. I wouldn't have shared the stage with Larry Sharp last year in Milwaukee, or Maple Grove. Right? I had to be authentic with Kevin, and Kevin was authentic back. I'm going to bring you to Atlanta. And we had phone calls. Kevin, do you remember the first time you met me?
Yes.
What do you recall about that first couple sessions in Orlando about me and my speaking partner talking about active listening, civil discourse? How many, you were one of the speakers there at that convention. There must have been 100 speakers at that convention. Why me?
I thought you had money.
No. After I told you I had triplets, you had to drop that one.
Yeah. The triplets did help, but that's phenomenal. The fact that you were dealing with active listening, which was just irrelevant,
Okay,
because a lot of people were talking and it wasn't even relevant what they were saying.
okay,
So you had relevance.
okay. I like that. I like that. Being authentic, being your true self, allows people to build trust with you faster. Okay? It's when you're trying to be a replica of someone else that they have that suspicion. Being authentic, there's a real good benefit of either they're not going to like you and they're going to move on and you fail earlier with them than if you stayed with them and you were not authentic and then you find out years later. That hurts. So being authentic yourself allows people to say, that's who I want to be around, or I want nothing to do with them. And believe me, I have a lot of people that want nothing to do with me. And I'm fine with that. The important thing is the people that want to be a good connection, meaningful connection with me, are there. And that's where I felt awkward piggyback a little bit on yours, Ivan, I felt awkward for years that way because I just watch everybody, oh, let's get as many friends as we can, let's make as many connections as we can, and then just this big swath of people, and there's nothing authentic about it. And at the end of the day, they have nothing. If I wouldn't have taken the time to comment on Christopher's ability to connect with an audience after a career politician took over the event, he wouldn't be sitting here today, right? And so being authentic initially helps because you'll fail earlier with people, and that's okay because now the people that you want to be around will see the true you. Has anybody had a good example in their lives of that, where being authentic initially has helped develop a good professional connection? Anybody want to share real quick? I mean, we're all unique people. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different educations. We all have different family dynamics, right?
I'm pretty sure I was weird with her early on.
Your authentic self,
Yeah.
right?
Still weird.
But there's something you saw,
Exactly.
you're holding hands. There's a connection.
Forcibly, right?
And Ivan may be the first person like him you've ever met, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But look at your body language. You're ecstatic by saying that, right? See?
Oh yeah, of course. I've never met anybody like her. She doesn't get even influenced by other people. Like, she's her own person.
Isn't it a powerful thing to know early on that people appreciate you authentically early on?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Being authentic. Give trust. Giving trust early takes courage. I had to trust that Kevin was going to fly me down to Atlanta and have 3 talks for me like he talked about, because I'd only met him once. But I knew that if I waited 5 years to keep score with Kevin in trust building, I may miss out on that opportunity to collaborate with him. So he gave trust to me early, and I reciprocated. That giving trust early helps meaningful connections develop. And again, you might fail earlier with people, but at least you didn't miss out on, think about it. If I would still be keeping score with Kevin Fortune in regards to collaboration and not fully giving trust early on, I may have only had 1 talk. But here I am representing his organization for the 5th time. We had to both give trust, even though we just met in Orlando. There's a great book out there called Trustology by Richard Fagerlund. And it gives the nuts and bolts on how to build high performance teams. So anybody that has a team here brings new people on, the nuts and bolts of how to bring up a high performance team and the negative aspects of having low trust. It talks early on. The main takeaway is giving trust early and allowing that to blossom. Many people take time to build trust. I'm talking on the professional side here, okay? The network connections. If you allow that trust to be given and trust is reciprocated, you may be able to collaborate earlier and begin strengthening it earlier. Many people will wait and keep score. Well, I'm going to wait until this person does this. And think of all the missed opportunities you may have in regard. So really, the second aspect is give trust, and if you fail earlier with building that connection, that's good. Because at least you know what you have, okay? How am I doing with that? You seem to get that, right? You see the benefit of giving trust early, and you see it's okay to fail earlier. At least you know, right? Have you had an example of that?
Yeah, and it's not always comfortable for me from the way I grew up.
Okay.
All my dad's sides were cops, so they instill in me not to trust people.
Yeah.
So It was really a hard that I didn't conscious about it, but
Okay.
now in life I do understand the importance of that because that's what it takes to build a relationship.
Yep.
That can
That's right, and a high-performance team. I trusted Kevin, I trust Christopher, I trust Jared implicitly, that we're gonna collaborate. I didn't keep score, and I know that we've had some early success in our collaboration, but what if I'd still be waiting? Think of those missed opportunities to have that high-performance team surrounded by you, that high-performance network around you. So, one resource, Trustology, it does give you the nuts and bolts on how to build high-performance teams. I highly recommend it. I was gracious enough to be given, my mentor gave me that, and it touched me that that I've been doing it for that many years. It just wasn't quantified. So, third one, balanced and reciprocal. I've talked about that. Being balanced and reciprocal is so critical because if we come at it from it's all about me, then it's not gonna blossom. Okay? Keeping it balanced and reciprocal is a key way to build out a meaningful network connection with that diversity. Now it's going to take on a lot of different forms, and sometimes you're going to be in a position of more need and that person can be helping you, and at some point in the future you could be helping them. Okay? I know that a lot of those connections, one of my creative guru that I brought onto my marketing team with Ripple Connects, it started out where I needed him. Imagine having some job uncertainty in the credit union industry in 2008. 2008, we were going through mergers. I was the marketing director for a credit union. And one of my meaningful connections introduced me to this individual. And I needed him because I was worried that I was going to be shown the door and I was going to have 3 young kids at home and a wife that was staying home with them. I was scared out of my mind. And the person that I brought onto my team today is that person. And there were times where he needed me. And so that reciprocal nature of our relationship has blossomed in a professional way that we've helped each other going on 10 years now. So a lot of the people that I met that are the most meaningful connections, friends, business association in my life came after the age of about 40. Can you imagine? Because I was doing it different. I was taking the time to invest and build out versus the superficiality or someone, well, I had to be best friends with someone because I went to grade school with them. I grew up. But I also realized the positive nature of having a balanced and reciprocal. I'm sure people have had that, but you've also had people that have been very needy, and I mean on a professional side, okay? I'm in job transition, can you help me? And then you don't hear from them for 4 years. I'm in job transition, I need your help. We've had people like that, right? If we keep it balanced, reciprocal, you will build that meaningful connection. You're digging, I would rather have a network that's 6 miles deep than 600 miles wide. I really do believe in that. So think about it, balanced, that teeter-totter. Who remembers teeter-totters? That playground. Yeah, they don't have them anymore, do they? Final, acknowledge. I think this is a powerful, powerful piece. To acknowledge the help that you've received. Acknowledge the contributions. Acknowledge the time that they took. So often we get so busy in life that we forget to write a thank you note. We forget to pick up the phone and say, hey, thank you for that lead. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for giving me one idea when I was in job transition or my business was struggling. When we acknowledge, we give a little piece of ourselves back to them, right? And how often do we get notes or calls or even just, hey, thanks for doing that for me? You really helped me. And if the intent is to build out meaningful connections and build collaboration and to continue build out diverse network nodes, we have to think of these 4 core areas, right? Because without that, I apologize for not having it, I'll run through it, but if we're not authentic, if we don't give our trust early, we don't keep it balanced, we don't acknowledge, the chances of it developing into a meaningful professional network connection are limited. They're just going to be like the rest of them they have. You want to stand out. And these are 4 areas you can. I take the time every year, and it's a mental exercise I do, just to, it grounds me. Sometimes I get a little ahead of myself and think that maybe I was just that I had the Midas touch on everything. But every year at this time of year, me and the family are going to go out South Dakota here in a couple weeks for a couple-day vacation. And that invariably someone's going to take a really good picture. Probably my son will. And that's going to be the source of my Thanksgiving Day cards to the people in my professional network. And this is my opportunity to genuinely thank them specifically for what they did to me, helped me with in the past year. What a humbling way, what a great way to acknowledge at a time when we're thankful is to write it. Those opportunities, that idea. Thanks for listening to me. Thanks for recommending a book. Acknowledging goes a long way in regards to that meaningful piece. And I thought I was the odd duck because I was doing some of this and I saw too many things that were too superficial in my book. But I can tell you, since I incorporated 5 years ago, it's the meaningful connections and the diversity of my network that has allowed me to be paired with great mentors, great speaking opportunities, to be on national cable programs. It's because my network, filled with meaningful people and connections, helped drive my success. It really did. And so therefore my gift today is to think about why the importance of it and the very actionable how-to. These are things that we don't have to buy, we just have to offer up. And be willing to do that. When a world is going so fast around us, do something different. And that's how we build it up. So I want to take the next couple minutes if you could answer any kind of questions. I'm going to hang around here this evening if anybody wants to just talk one-on-one. I know that sometimes, when we're entrepreneurs or in career transition or want to make a job change or a transplant to a new area, I'll be here. So, yes, sir.
Just curious if you have a process for finding mentors.
My own personal process is putting my authentic self out there, so they really get to see who I am. That's worked. So my first mentor, Gary, who passed away in 2011, who says that you are going to turn the Twin Cities career coaching world upside down someday. The first time I met him, I passed out 3 Musketeers bars at a networking event because I was in transition, and he was sitting there. And I challenged the group to say, why do you think a guy like me would hand up the $1 3 Musketeers bars? And someone says, you're the father of triplets. The guy sitting in the back goes, I love it. That's marketing 401. I had no idea who this guy was. I was going to be in transition. He called me. I put myself out there.
Oh, wow.
That gentleman right there that gave me that book, who writes for Forbes, I serve on a nonprofit board. He knows that I put the mission of the nonprofit organization first and foremost. It's not about me. And a lot of people in that that serve on boards don't always do that. He respected. And so, for me, I just put myself out there. And I think I failed earlier with people that don't want to be my mentor. My broadcast mentor saw what I brought, and I was courageous enough to talk about things that no one else was talking about. And that's why I want to be associated with you. And then he became my mentor, because I had no idea what broadcasting was. But you get paired with someone that can make you better. So I just put myself out there. Yes, sir.
Yeah. What's the name of the not-for-profit?
The nonprofit that I serve on,
Yes.
Cars for Neighbors in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
And follow-up, is it a 501c3 or 501c4?
501(c)(3).
Yeah. Thank you.
So, yeah, that's how I found my mentor. My newest mentor. I have two. So, yes.
Well, first, I love that you brought up that you've built another solid network after 40. Like, that's really
Oh, yeah.
inspiring.
Yeah.
But my question's around collaboration-based filters, because I know it's nice to hear a lot of insights and what people have to say about what you do, but do you have some type of filter in place to know, okay, this is something I'm going to dig deeper on, this is something I probably set aside, versus, so that.
So when I hear a lot of ideas coming at me,
Yeah, based on what you're doing and what you're offering
Yes.
to the world, because everybody wants to.
one of the things that I always make sure that I consider where it's coming from. I don't like hidden agendas from anybody. I like both. I like people to say, hey, I'm willing, this is the idea I have and here's why, early. So that is one method that I use to start filtering. Someone that has my best interest at heart is an idea that I want to flesh out. So when I hear a lot of ideas, that's my filter. I think about the source, and who I could potentially collaborate with. If they're not willing to collaborate, that idea may just stay in an idea stage. So that's what I use. I like to see if I can turn it actionable. So if someone did give me a good idea, would you be willing to sit down? Could I buy you a cup of coffee to flesh this out a little bit more and see where you're coming from? If they're not willing to do that, then that's one of my filters too. I need to know who I have in front of me. Did that answer your question? You get a lot of ideas, right?
Yeah.
Thrown at you by a lot of different people.
Like, everybody wants to tell you how to do what you do, and you're like, no one's asking you.
And exactly. The one that asks you and listens to you, that's probably more than likely the person that's going to have your best interest at heart. Any additional questions? And again, you three know me. When I say I'm going to do something, I'll be around here if anybody has any questions. And I do appreciate the opportunity, Kevin. You're a wonderful man, and you've enriched my life, and you helped me grow my company and help me achieve my goals. And thank you for giving trust 4 years ago and this opportunity to come over to this beautiful city and reconnect with some of my good friends and to meet new friends. And hopefully I've given you one thing, that is you go back to your hometowns that you can put into action. So thank you.
Thanks for watching, everybody, and if you want to help support more videos like this, please go to the PayPal link attached and donate $1. Thank you.